the ruins of a dying world, he found her heart still burning. And when she looked into his eyes, she saw the kind of fire that could rebuild a galaxy. The sky above Varian 9 was split open like an old scar, bleeding light from orbiting wreckage that never stopped burning. Ash drifted through the atmosphere like snowfall, glowing faintly in the acidic wind. For most, this place was a graveyard. For Commander Rian Holt, it was just another broken system he didn't know how to stop fixing. His ship had gone down at dawn, sliced by debris from a shattered transport satellite. The hull was torn, his reactor venting heat. He staggered through the wasteland clutching a damaged medpack, one arm wrapped tight across his ribs. The air was thin and stung like rust in the lungs. Every step echoed through hollow craters filled with the bones of machines. And then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong, a cry. Soft, trembling, not human. He followed it past the blackened stone pillars of what once had been a reactor city, until he found the source. A shimmer of silver skin beneath fallen alloy beams, a faint violet pulse flickering beneath translucent flesh. The girl was pinned, one leg trapped under a collapsed support, her breath shallow and broken like static through a comlink. Ryan's instincts screamed to keep distance. His last encounter with alien life had ended with a firing squad and a surrender treaty, no one honored. But the sound she made, half gasp, half plea, unraveled the years he'd spent trying to feel nothing. He dropped to his knees, hands raw, forcing metal aside until his palms bled. When the beam finally shifted, he saw her clearly. Eyes luminous like twin nebulae, hair a spill of molten glass that shimmered in shades of white and blue. Her body pulsed faintly with inner light, veins glowing in rhythmic patterns. She was beautiful, but it was the kind of beauty that hurt to look at, like staring into the heart of a dying star. Her lips moved. "Don't touch. The core will wake," Ryan froze. He glanced around and saw it, a cracked containment sphere behind her thrumming with violet energy. The readings on his wrist display were impossible. Temperature spikes, unstable radiation patterns. "Then you'll both die if I don't," he said. He crawled closer, unspooling the last of his portable power lines. Her pupils widened, glowing brighter with fear. Human technology can't stabilize ether. Good thing I stopped following manuals years ago. He jammed a cable into the fractured core, rerouting power through his own suit's cell. For a moment, the field screamed, a high-frequency shriek that burned the inside of his skull. Then the light steadied. The sphere quieted, the readings normalized. He fell back, gasping, smoke curling from his gloves. The girl blinked at him, disbelief washing across her face. "You how?" "Human instinct," he muttered. "Mostly bad ideas that somehow work." When she tried to move, pain racked her body. He slid an arm beneath her and lifted carefully. Her skin was cool against his, faintly humming with residual energy. She was taller than he'd expected, fragile-looking but with muscles coiled tight like glass wire. "You shouldn't help me," she said through clenched teeth. "Your kind destroyed mine." He adjusted his grip, meeting her defiant gaze. "Yeah, humans ruin everything. Doesn't mean we stop trying to make it right," she didn't answer. The silence between them was heavier than the wind. Ryan carried her through the skeletal remains of the city until he reached the shadow of his downed shuttle. Inside, flickering emergency lights painted the walls crimson. He laid her gently on the medbed, watching her iridescent blood shimmer as the wound sealant hissed across her skin. Her breathing slowed, steadying. He watched her chest rise and fall, the light within dimming from storm to calm. Every instinct in him screamed that she was dangerous, an unknown alien, a remnant of the Atheran, the very species humans had driven to extinction during the energy wars. And yet, she looked small, fragile, heartbreakingly alive. When she woke hours later, her voice was clearer. "Why did you save me?" Ryan leaned against the console, arms folded. Seemed like the kind of day for bad decisions. She frowned, confusion flickering across her features. "My name is Vera, last heir of the Atheran Dominion." He nodded once. "Ryan Holt. Last fool who thought crashing here was a good idea. You shouldn't even be alive. The storm zone kills humans. Guess I forgot to die." Something like amusement ghosted across her face, vanishing as fast as it appeared. Her gaze swept the wreckage of his ship. "You're not military anymore." "No." He tapped the insignia plate half torn from his armor. "Quit when I realized I was fighting ghosts. Then why help me? Ryan looked down at his scarred hands. Because once someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. Maybe this evens the score. Vera studied him for a long moment, eyes softening. When she spoke again, her tone carried a quiet ache. My people are dying. The Ethereum we need to survive is controlled by your syndicate. They bleed our worlds to feed their war engines. I've seen what those engines do, he said, voice low. They chew planets and call it progress. She turned her face away. I came here to steal back what was ours. Instead, I woke a reactor and nearly burned with it. Ryan smiled faintly. You've got guts. Bad aim, though. Her head tilted. You mock me, yet you risked yourself for me. Old habit, he shrugged. Fixing what others broke. Vera's gaze fell on the broken containment field, now humming steadily in the corner. No one, not even our engineers, could make that core stable again. I didn't, Ryan said simply. It listened. Her eyes widened. Machines don't listen, he met her stare. To humans, sometimes they do. A long silence stretched between them, filled only by the pulse of the repaired reactor and the rhythmic hiss of his ship's failing air system. Outside, storms howled through the empty streets. Inside, two survivors watched each other across the dim light, curiosity flickering where suspicion once lived. Vera shifted, wincing as she sat upright. Your kind calls us extinct. Reports were exaggerated, she almost smiled. Then whispered, You saved an extinction. He looked at her, really looked, at the strength beneath the exhaustion, the spark beneath centuries of ruin. I saved one woman, he said quietly. The rest is up to you. When he turned to check the hull integrity, her voice stopped him. You have fire in your eyes, she said softly. Not anger, creation. We used to call that the flame of becoming. He glanced back. Humans just call it stubbornness. Her lips curved, the faintest echo of a smile. Then maybe stubbornness will save us both. A tremor rolled through the ground, distant but powerful. Sensors blinked red, energy surge approaching. Vera's expression hardened instantly. They found me. Who? The Syndicate's sentinels. They track any Etheran pulse. We need to move. Ryan grabbed his rifle, slinging it over his shoulder. Can you walk? Barely. Then lean on me. She hesitated, pride warring with survival. Finally, she placed her cool, glowing hand against his shoulder. Static jumped between them, warm, electric, alive. She gasped softly, the contact sending light rippling across her skin. He felt it too, a hum deep inside his chest syncing with her pulse. What was that? He asked. Our energies resonated, she murmured, stunned. That shouldn't be possible. Welcome to human physics, he said. Outside, thunder split the horizon as plasma drones descended through violet clouds. He tightened his grip on her hand. Stay close. I've got a few bad ideas left. They ran together into the burning dusk, silhouettes swallowed by stormlight. Behind them, the reactor core flared, its restored energy beaming skyward like a signal to forgotten gods. And as the storm swallowed their trail, the first ember of something impossible sparked between them. Not just survival, not just alliance, but the fragile, dangerous beginning of trust. Every sunrise bled through a sky the color of fire and rust, painting the dunes in endless shades of dying light. Ryan and Vera rode through that wasteland on a battered skimmer that coughed smoke and protest with every mile. Its engines trembled beneath the weight of stolen fuel cells and two people who had no reason to trust each other, yet still didn't let go. She sat at the helm, posture rigid, luminous strands of her hair whipping behind her like comet trails. He worked beside her, adjusting power regulators with steady hands, sweat streaking across the dirt on his jaw. Neither spoke for a long while. Silence became their fragile peace. When the storm eased, he finally said, You know this desert better than the map. I was born here before your species learned to spell its name, she replied. Her voice carried both pride and sadness. The dunes used to sing when the wind touched them. Now they only whisper the names of the dead. Ryan didn't look up from the dashboard. Then we'll give them new names. She turned her eyes toward him, curious despite herself. Humans always believe in naming things, even ashes. Names mean memory, he answered softly. Memory means hope. Her expression shifted, part disbelief, part something warmer. You talk like a philosopher, but you fight like a soldier. Same job, different tools. When night fell, they stopped near the fractured skeleton of an old orbital elevator. Steel ribs stretched into the clouds, half buried in sand. Vera built a small energy shield around the camp. Ryan set up his repair tools with the kind of focus that replaced fear. From the shadows, her voice broke the quiet. The Syndicate once mined this place. My people worked here until their bodies failed. They said the stars looked close enough to touch from the top platform. Ryan tightened a bolt without looking up. What happened to them? She hesitated. They stopped singing. The sands took them. He set the wrench down. Then maybe tonight, the stars will hear us instead. Her gaze lingered on him, and for a moment, the distance between them shrank. He began calibrating a portable scanner, trying to trace the signal that led to the Syndicate's vaults. Vera watched his fingers move across the device, quick, sure, alive with purpose. You rebuild things faster than my healers could mend bone, she murmured. Habit, he said, without lifting his head. If it's broken, I have to know why. And if it's beyond repair, then I find a way anyway. She smiled faintly. That sounds painfully human. He finally looked up. And yet it's why I'm still breathing. The night air carried the metallic tang of ozone. Ryan's suit hummed faintly, drawing power from her shield field. When his hand brushed the glowing barrier, the energy shimmered up his arm, warm and tingling. She felt it too, turning sharply toward him. Don't touch that, she said, voice unsteady. It's linked to my biofield. Then you're powering this whole camp? Yes. Guess I owe you dinner. Her brows knitted. Humans pay debts with food? It's tradition, he said, pulling a ration pack from his bag. You'll hate it, she did. The first bite of synthetic protein made her grimace, then laugh, a sound so unexpected it startled them both. It tastes like rusted circuitry, she said between laughter. Best flavor in the system, he replied dryly. Their laughter faded into an easy quiet. The sky above them was a scarred tapestry of stars fractured by orbital debris. For the first time, Ryan saw something alive reflected in her eyes that wasn't sorrow. Hours later, their scanners pinged, coordinates to a buried Syndicate lab 200 clicks east. That was where the Ethereum reserves were kept, guarded by automated drones and mercenaries. The data made her fists clench. They harvest the cores from my people's remains. Every crate of energy they sell carries the echo of someone's death. Ryan stared at the projection, jaw tight. Then we take it back. You say that as if war is a simple word. I spent half my life in simple wars, he said. This time it actually matters, she studied him. You fight like someone trying to undo a mistake. Maybe I am. When dawn rose, the two of them moved through the ruins like ghosts, shadows under an amber sky. They reached the entrance of the Syndicate's underground facility by midday. The doors were sealed with coated plasma locks that hummed with deadly precision. Ryan knelt beside the control panel, fingers dancing over the interface. Give me 2 minutes. Vera crouched beside him, palms glowing faintly as she scanned the structure. You're bypassing their encryption manually? I prefer to insult machines face to face. Your arrogance will get us both killed. Probably, he said, smiling without looking up. When the door hissed open, a rush of cold air swept over them, heavy with sterilized metal and fear. Rows of cryopods lined the hall beyond, each filled with faintly glowing remnants. Atherin bodies turned into fuel cores. Vera's knees weakened. She touched one of the pods, voice breaking. That's my cousin. I buried her once. How? Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder, steady but gentle. Don't finish that thought. We'll shut it down. The security drones detected motion before they reached the central chamber. Beams of red light cut through the dark. Ryan grabbed his pulse rifle, diving behind a pillar as plasma bolts scorched the walls. Vera leapt into motion, her entire body radiating energy. She moved like lightning, each strike a burst of sound and color, each step vibrating the floor. He watched her fight, stunned. Her resonance combat was part dance, part storm. Every motion sent harmonic ripples through the metal, disorienting the drones long enough for him to shoot their cores clean through. When silence fell again, her breathing came in sharp bursts, light fading from her skin. You all right? He asked. She nodded weakly. I'll live. That's what you humans say, isn't it? Usually before doing something stupid again. Together they reached the central vault. Massive glass cylinders pulsed with concentrated Ethereum, each one glowing like captured starlight. Ryan whistled low. That's enough energy to power 10 cities. It's the blood of my people, she said flatly. He looked at her then, not as an alien, not as a mission, but as someone who'd lost everything and still stood tall. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Her voice trembled. Sorry doesn't bring them back. No, he agreed, but it might save the next generation. She turned to him, anger and grief warring in her face. Why do you care, human? You could walk away and never look back. Because I've seen too many children starve while men like the Syndicate got rich. I can't unsee it. Their eyes met across the cold glow of the vault. For the first time, she didn't look away. Alarms blared. Reinforcements inbound. Ryan moved fast, rerouting the vault's energy into a containment field. We can overload the cores, fry their systems, and escape in the chaos. That could ignite the whole complex. Then we move fast. He triggered the sequence. Lights flared. Together they sprinted through the collapsing tunnels, explosions chasing them like thunder. When the final blast hit, the elevator shaft behind them erupted into violet fire, sending shockwaves across the desert. They stumbled into the open night, sand swirling around them. Vera fell to her knees, exhausted. Ryan caught her before she hit the ground. Her pulse flickered weakly against his chest. Don't. Let them win, she whispered. They won't, he said, brushing a streak of dust from her cheek. Not while you're still breathing. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing softly. Why does your voice sound like promise? Because I mean it. She leaned closer, searching his face as if trying to decipher a code written in another universe. You humans, she whispered, you burn so fast. But you're light. It's beautiful. Before he could reply, the first rays of dawn cracked the horizon. Their skimmer, half buried in sand, reflected the light like a mirror. The desert glowed purple and gold. They climbed aboard again, heading toward the mountains that hid the next Syndicate outpost. Beneath the roar of the engine, she murmured, You risked everything for me today. He smiled without turning. Guess I'm starting to like bad ideas. The wind carried her quiet laughter through the dawn, and somewhere beyond the broken skyline, a signal pulsed into the void. A beacon sent by the Syndicate promising retaliation. Neither of them noticed. For the first time in years, the storm didn't sound like morning. It sounded like hope trying to breathe again. The flames of their last escape still burned on the horizon when the transmission reached them. A single message, faint, encrypted, and trembling with fear. To any Atheran still alive? We hear you. Vera froze as the words echoed from the ship's comm. The sound of her own language, untouched by human translation, filled the cabin like a prayer. Her eyes glistened. The light in her veins pulsed faster. They're alive, she whispered. The exiles. My people. Ryan glanced from the controls, jaw tightening. Then the Syndicate knows too. They'll send hunters. Then we'll be faster. He angled the skimmer toward the northern canyons, the engines screaming against the thin air. For hours nothing existed but wind, dust, and the steady hum of two hearts that refused to surrender. When they finally reached the coordinates, the canyon opened into a labyrinth of glass-like rock formations. Hidden deep inside, cloaked by magnetic fields, was a subterranean city carved into stone. It was beautiful and broken at once. Crystalline towers reduced to skeletons, light flickering from failing reactors. Dozens of violet-eyed survivors emerged, weapons raised, disbelief written across every face. The moment Vera stepped into view, the crowd gasped. Veratai, an older Atheran whispered, falling to his knees. The air lives. The people surrounded her, hands trembling, tears shining like liquid stars. Ryan stayed back, feeling the weight of their stares. Half wonder, half suspicion. To them he was a ghost wearing enemy colors. Vera raised a hand for silence. This human saved me, she said clearly. He fights the Syndicate. He fights for us. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The elder who had spoken earlier frowned. No human fights without profit. Ryan met his gaze. Maybe I ran out of things worth buying. Later, in the echoing halls of the hidden city, Ryan studied the crumbling technology. Everything was decaying. Reactors overheating, water systems failing, power conduits cracked. He moved among the machines like a surgeon, stripping, rewiring, repairing by instinct. When the lights flickered back to life, the Atheran gasped. Vera watched him, pride and affection warring in her expression. He heals what others abandon, she said softly. Even worlds. That night they sat near a small reactor pool, the glow painting their faces in soft purple light. She spoke of her childhood, the songs of her people, the crystal fields, the day the humans came. He spoke of battlefields soaked in dust and oil, of orders that hollowed out his soul. When silence came, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full of understanding. Vera turned to him, her voice quiet. We can't survive hidden forever. The Syndicate will find this place. Then we don't hide, Ryan said. We make them chase something they can't control, she frowned. What are you thinking? Something reckless, he admitted. Something human. He led her to the reactor core, a sphere of fractured energy veins humming beneath the city. This is enough power to keep you alive for months, he said, but it can do more. If we fuse your Ethereum technology with my energy architecture, we can amplify its frequency, turn it into a signal. A signal? She echoed. One that carries life, he explained. You said Atheran colonies used to share a network of resonance. If we broadcast a pulse through the planet's crust, it could awaken dormant DNA strands buried in the atmosphere, even in off-world archives. Her eyes widened. You're talking about resurrection through harmonics. He grinned. I'm talking about giving your people back their future. She hesitated, awe mixing with terror. That's impossible. So was growing mushrooms in vacuum once, he said lightly. Until someone tried. Her lips curved despite the fear. You're dangerous. Only when I care. The project began that night. Ryan and Vera worked side by side, blending human code with alien rhythm. He constructed the core amplifiers. She shaped the resonance harmonics, singing the activation tones in her people's ancient dialect. Their energy fields intertwined so completely that sparks sometimes leapt between their hands. Days turned into weeks. Word spread among the exiles that the human and the air were building something miraculous. They called it Project Ember, named for the first light they'd seen when Vera returned. But peace never lasted long on Varian 9. The Syndicate's ships arrived sooner than expected, sleek black vessels, streaking across the orange sky, dropping units of Kryn Warmex. They hit the outer cliffs at dawn, fire splitting the horizon. Vera's people panicked. Rian stood before the defense grid, voice hard. Hold the line. No one runs. This planet already buried too many. Vera joined him, hands glowing as she activated the resonance shields. When her energy met his circuitry, the barrier flared into a shimmering aurora. The first missiles struck and scattered like light hitting a mirror. She looked at him, breathless. You calculated that field from instinct. He smiled grimly. I improvise when scared. The battle raged for hours. Every explosion painted the canyon walls in chaotic beauty. Atheran warriors fought beside human-designed drones, the blend of organic light and cold metal creating a war ballet that defied reason. Vera was at the center of it, her body a storm of radiance, her voice carrying through the air like thunder turned to song. When the last mech fell, silence returned, heavy and fragile. But their victory came at a cost. The main reactor had been damaged. Its energy pulse grew unstable, threatening to consume everything they'd built. Ryan ran diagnostics, sweat streaking his face. We're out of time. If it detonates, the city's gone. Vera stepped forward, eyes bright and calm. Then I'll stabilize it manually. Don't even think about it. My resonance can contain the surge. I'm the only one who can. He grabbed her wrist. You'll burn, she met his gaze. If I don't, we all die. She tore free and leapt onto the reactor platform, light erupting from her palms as she merged with the core's energy stream. The chamber roared. Sparks cascaded in arcs of violet lightning, her silhouette shining brighter than the storm. Vera, he shouted, forcing his way through the wind. Her voice came faintly through the chaos. You showed me how to break rules. Let me use it, Rian's mind raced. The containment field pulsed out of rhythm, her body faltering under the strain. He made a decision. He ripped the regulator module from his suit and slammed it into the console, linking his neural feed to hers. For a heartbeat, pain split his skull. Then their minds connected. He saw her memories, fields of glass flowers, skies painted with symphonies, laughter that no longer existed. She saw his, burning cities, fallen comrades, the guilt he never spoke aloud. Their thoughts fused into something whole and terrifyingly alive. Together they redirected the energy, their combined will bending physics itself. The reactor's unstable pulse turned steady, spreading outward through the planet's crust. A wave of radiant light swept across Varian 9. igniting the sands into shimmering embers. In orbit, the Syndicate's fleet fractured as their power grids overloaded, burning out in cascades of violet fire. Every Atheran sensor in the sector lit up at once. The signal had spread. Their lost kin, scattered across distant colonies, would hear the call. As the light dimmed, Rian stumbled forward and caught Vera before she fell. Her skin glowed faintly, her breath shallow. He pressed a hand to her cheek. "Stay with me." Her voice came as a whisper, soft and trembling. "You always make the impossible sound easy. That's because you keep surviving it." Outside, the air cleared for the first time in years. The sky, once red and choking, now shimmered with streaks of violet and gold. The people emerged from the shelters, staring upward in silent awe. Ryan and Vera stood in the heart of a miracle, two souls blazing where death was supposed to reign. She lifted her gaze, eyes bright again. "What do you call this?" she asked. He smiled faintly, his voice raw. "Hope, the kind that spreads." Her hand found his, fingers trembling but sure. "Then let it burn forever," and somewhere above the clouds, where dying satellites drifted like forgotten gods, the echo of their fusion, human and alien, mind and heart, lit a signal bright enough for the whole galaxy to see. The storm had finally slept. For the first time since anyone could remember, the sky above Varian 9 wasn't bleeding red. It glowed in shades of gold and amethyst, reborn by the wave they unleashed. The world breathed again. Atheran crystals bloomed through the sand like veins of living light, humming softly beneath the surface. Project Ember had done more than save a city. It had awakened a planet. Rian stood at the edge of the rebuilt ridge, his reflection glimmering in the new rivers running through cracked valleys. He hadn't slept in 2 days. His hands were covered in dust and engine grease. Yet he smiled as he watched the power grids pulse steadily across the horizon. He turned when he heard soft footsteps behind him. Vera approached, cloaked in pale fabric woven from Atheran silk, her veins still faintly illuminated beneath her skin. Her once bruised voice carried the calm strength of a leader who had seen both death and dawn. "The planet listens again," she said quietly, looking out over the glowing plains. "It listens because you gave it something to hear," he replied. She smiled, a small, private expression that lived only for him. "You built the core that carried my song. Without your code, the resonance would have collapsed. Without your voice, the code would have been meaningless." They stood in silence for a moment, the wind tugging at their clothes, carrying the scent of rain and metal. Below them, the remnants of the old Syndicate bunkers were being dismantled. Atheran and humans worked side by side, building, planting, repairing. Children ran through the dust with glowing toys, their laughter echoing where once only sirens had cried. Vera exhaled softly. "My people want me to take the mantle of Empress. I told them we no longer need crowns." "And they listened?" Ryan asked. She tilted her head. "Not yet, but they will. Change needs patience," he grinned faintly, "and maybe a few bad ideas along the way." She gave him a look. "You call them bad ideas. I call them miracles held together by arrogance." He chuckled, brushing a streak of grime from his wrist display. "I'm building a better reactor design," he said. Self-sustaining, hybridized between Atheran cores and human solar lattices. "No pollution, no dependency. Another impossible dream," she teased. "Those are the only kind worth chasing." Her expression softened. "You still can't stop fixing things." "I stopped breaking them first," he said quietly. For a heartbeat, she just watched him, the human who had turned apocalypse into rebirth. Then she stepped closer, the faint light in her veins brightening where her skin brushed his arm. "I wish the stars could see us now," she murmured. "Maybe they'd stop mourning." He turned to her, his voice low. "They are watching, Vera. They just learned what it means to hope again." Their quiet moment fractured when alarms blared from the valley below. Ryan's wrist display flickered red. "Perimeter breach," he muttered, scanning the feed. The image resolved, 3 transport ships descending fast, carrying the Syndicate's surviving enforcers. Even broken, the old empire refused to die quietly. Vera's composure turned sharp. "They've come for retribution." "Then they're late," Ryan said, grabbing his rifle. The first dropship struck the sand with bone-shaking force. Smoke and fire exploded outward as armored figures poured from the wrecks, their armor gleaming black beneath the rising sun. The Atheran guards took position, their resonance weapons humming to life. Ryan sprinted down the slope beside Vera, shouting orders as gunfire split the air. He ducked behind a stone wall, returning fire with surgical precision. Vera raised her hands, energy spilling from her fingertips like molten glass, forming shields that shimmered around the villagers. The Syndicate forces advanced relentlessly. "They're targeting the reactor," she shouted. "Then we hold them there," Ryan replied, reloading. One of the enemy leaders, a towering exosuit commander, stepped through the smoke. "Human," the modulated voice rasped, "you've stolen what was never yours." Ryan met the machine's visor with a cold stare. "And you lost what you never deserved." The mech fired. The blast hit the ground near them, hurling sand and debris. Vera staggered, her shield cracking. Without hesitation, Ryan grabbed her, pulling her to cover. "You're hurt." "Just a fracture in the shield field," she said through gritted teeth. "Nothing I can't mend." She touched his arm again, her light flaring brighter, feeding into his suit's damaged systems. Energy surged through him, stabilizing his reactor core. The feedback made both of them gasp, their connection flaring alive again, more intense than before. They could feel each other's pulse, their breath sinking. "What are you doing?" he asked, half breathless. "Sharing strength," she answered. "You once told me humans don't know when to stop fighting. Show me why." He rose from cover and charged forward, guided by her energy pulsing through his nerves. His rifle became an extension of her will, every shot synchronized with the rhythm of her heart. Together, they cut through the Syndicate line like stormlight tearing the sky. The last mech fell to its knees, energy cells sparking, but victory came at a cost. An explosion ripped through the battlefield, the enemy commander detonating his failing core. Ryan was thrown back, his armor torn open. When he tried to rise, pain lanced through his chest. Vera ran to him, her glow flickering with panic. No, stay still," she pleaded, kneeling beside him. His lips curved into a faint smile. "Guess the bad ideas finally caught up." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't joke now." Her hands pressed over the wound, light spilling into the cracks of his armor. The healing energy burned through her veins like fire. He tried to stop her, voice weak. "You'll drain yourself." "Then I'll drain the stars if I must," she said fiercely. "You once gave me your life. Let me return it." Her power deepened to a blinding radiance. The energy cascaded through his body, rewriting damage, forcing his heart to steady. He gasped as air filled his lungs again, vision returning in flashes of gold. She swayed, exhausted, her own pulse faltering. He caught her before she fell. "Vera," he said softly, "you can't keep saving me." She smiled faintly, her voice trembling. "I'm not saving you. I'm saving us." Behind them, the last Syndicate ship exploded, lighting the dawn in shades of violet flame. The battle was over. The planet was theirs, days past. The survivors rebuilt faster than anyone expected. Atheran engineers and human settlers raised towers of living glass powered by hybrid cores. The new city glowed brighter each night, its lights visible from orbit, a symbol of rebirth. Ryan healed slowly, scars crossing his ribs like battle lines that no longer mattered. He spent his days teaching the children how to use tools, how to grow plants in soil that once knew only dust. Vera, now recognized as the voice of the flame, refused to rule from a throne. Instead, she led from the fields, her hands often stained with soil and light. When evening fell, they walked together along the riverbanks the storms had carved. The horizon burned with soft embers, reflections dancing across the water. She stopped suddenly, eyes distant. "Do you ever miss the war?" "Every scar reminds me," he said. "But not with regret." "Then what?" "Gratitude. It led me here." She looked at him, emotion tightening her throat. "You are the most reckless creature I've ever known. And you're the reason I survived my own recklessness." They stood there as twilight settled. Stars bloomed above them, new constellations visible now that the pollution was gone. He pointed upward. "That one looks like your reactor pattern." She smiled softly. "Then it's yours too. It carries your code." He reached for her hand, the familiar current sparking between their skin. For a long moment they said nothing. The world around them spoke enough, machines humming, children laughing, rivers glowing. The universe at last was quiet. When he finally spoke, his voice held a tremor of awe. You know, I spent half my life thinking humans were only good at breaking things. And now? Now I think we were just waiting to meet someone worth building for." Her laughter was gentle, carried away by the breeze. "Then build forever, Rian Holt. Build until the stars envy you." Years later, the city stood as a beacon of unity. Its sign read in 3 languages: "The Ember Colony, born from fire, bound by hope." At the heart of the settlement, beneath a crystalline arch, a statue stood, not of rulers or soldiers, but of a human and an Atheran standing hand in hand, looking toward the stars. The plaque beneath it bore a single inscription: "He gave fire to a dying world. She taught it how to live." Every night when the wind swept through the valley, the crystals in the monument resonated softly. Some said it was the planet's heartbeat. Others swore it was the echo of 2 souls still intertwined in its energy. And if you stood close enough, you could almost hear them. Her laughter, woven with his quiet reply, carried on the living light of a world they rebuilt together. "We are the proof," her voice whispered through the wind, "that even in ashes, love can still bloom brighter than the stars."